only thing she did with it was build this building to show off.
What value has it for the island so far? None. Joe
two drunks are sitting in there. Two drunks and a priest. Two drunks and a priest walk into a fucking bar.
A rec center.
You know? A rec center.
Two drunks and a priest walk into a rec center is the name of this episode.
Anyway,
title.
Title.
Welcome to Flan-Again, a Mike Flan-Again rewatch, brought to you by the Articulate Coven. For more information on the original Anne Rice fan podcast and community, visit articulatecoven.com and find more about this show at articulatecoven.com/Flan-Again. Welcome to Flan-Again, a Mike Flan-Again rewatch. We are... nope.
We didn't like that either.
Nope. Welcome to Flan-Again, a Mike Flan-Again rewatch from the Articulate Coven. We are your hosts. I'm Joel.
I'm Ashley.
And we are the Articulate Coven. See, you gotta say the intro right, or it can't.
Yeah,
it doesn't work, Ashley.
The episode is not gonna fly.
The whole, it's like a, you know what's weird? It's an incantation, really, is what it is. It's a prayer. It's a little prayer.
That everything is going to go the way we expect it.
The podcasting gods. Ashley, here's how you know this is going to be a great episode. First of all, I had lunch with a preacher today.
Oh, wow. So you're ready. You're ready to go.
We'll get to that story in a second. But also, I was reading over my notes while I was waiting for you to come online just a few minutes ago. And I thought to myself, you do not have enough notes about Holly Holy to the Wikipedia, sir. And I literally Googled it again to add a few more things about this song into our discussion today.
What is this? Is this the Wikipedia page of Holly Holy?
Yes,
right here
yes,
for me? Yes, it is. 100%.
Oh, man. Okay, listen.
I'm
excited to talk about all sorts of things. I'm excited to talk about all sorts of things, but that is the little treat for me personally that we get to talk about this week. It's been such a weight, Ashley, to discuss it. Let's get right into it because we have a lot of things to discuss. We said, Mike, the Flan-Again podcast from the Articulate Coven. In case you don't know who that is, you just found us because you like Mike Flan-Again and Midnight Mass.
And
Welcome. We've got this whole other thing happening. We've got a great Facebook group and a great podcast about Anne Rice and her immoral universe, the vampires and the witches and the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah, who knows what's going to be next? They're not. They don't care. They're just making it up as they go.
That's right. That's right. I want to say a huge thank you since you and I recorded last, Ashley. It was my birthday. My 43rd birthday passed.
Happy birthday, Joel.
Thank you. Lori Yancey in the Facebook group made a post early that morning. She beat everybody to... You generally, in the past, have posted about it early that morning.
She was ahead.
She said, happy birthday to Joel, who, along with Ashley, has given us the best drama-free interview with a vampire group on Facebook. Cheers to our own Prince of Podcasts. And let me tell you, made my whole damn day. And obviously then every now and again I got a notification throughout the day as some new person had come and commented on that post. So that was really cool too. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, everybody in the group. It really is a great space. The Facebook group really is that cool. There are a handful of people in there now.
Like bullshit, but it's true.
It really is.
It sounds like lies we tell ourselves, but it's real.
We work hard. I got rid of 3 bots today that had gotten through. I used to say that my process was strenuous, and at different times I have been more, if they didn't check all the group rules or whatever, then I don't approve you. But honestly, I'm forgiving a lot of times, and like if somebody gets invited, they don't even see the group rules necessarily. So anyway, this week I found 3 different bots
approving people. You know, sometimes I've done the approving.
You're fine.
I'm in there.
But when we find nefarious interaction, and first of all, can't post in the group without our approval anyway, so there aren't any spam posts that get through. But when something happens, immediately they get boosted, and we try to maintain the garden. So there are a handful of folks over there now, though, that aren't really into the Anne Rice stuff that much, or maybe they've tried the show, but it's not. Anyway, the group is beginning to expand a little bit out of just the Anne Rice realm. It'll always stay Anne Rice heavy, I'm sure, but if you're a Flan-Again fan and you're interested in this group that I speak of, the links are in the show notes. Come and join us. Second, But again, on a similar point, though, I wanted to acknowledge and say thank you. I hadn't told Ashley this yet. I just saw it myself earlier today. We've crossed 125,000 plays for the podcast.
What?
Yes, for Articulate Coven. So that's across the YouTube and the audio.
That's crazy.
But like it's through episode 65, our last episode. Yeah, we're just over 125,000. So that's very humbling. That's very rewarding. Like Ashley and I honestly would still talk on this podcast or on Articulate Coven, but we would never have made the Flan-Again thing.
No.
And we wouldn't be talking weekly all year long, even when there's not a TV show and whatever. So thank you. Thank you for helping make all that possible.
Vacations, y'all. It's awesome.
Yes. I called from a hotel room from California.
Like, everyone be quiet in the background.
Put your headphones on and shut up.
Find something to
do. One more praise report while we're at it, I guess.
Praise.
Alana Claire has sent us a care package, Ashley. It's badass.
Shut up.
I'm not going to show you the thing because you've got one coming, and I want it to be a surprise when it gets there. But other than the thing, though, there was a card, and I did want to show that because it was so amazing, and I was so impressed. All right, here it is.
Sweet. I can't stand it. I'm going to die.
Okay, so Alana Claire sent us both a little gift, but because she sent it... Boy, everything fell off my desk now, folks. There you go. That shows my organization. I'll stop moving things so I don't get myself in more trouble. All right. She sent me this little note here, and it said, Joel, sorry I missed sending this to you before your birthday and the videos for the Vampire Lestat. I hope you like my version of... Well, I won't tell you what her version of is, but I hope you like my thing.
It's a surprise.
Can't wait to see more videos, Alana Claire. Thank you, Alana Claire.
Thank you, Alana.
Like the thing. Ashley's going to love the thing. I got a video ready. Yeah, I got a video ready when Ashley gets the thing. So, but this is the card that she made me, though, for my birthday. Right?
Very cool.
Right? Very cool. But wait, it gets better.
Look
at this. Look at this.
She
like
made
the 3D skull. My wife guarantees me that this is a Cricut cut card. Yes, that's how she did that, I'm sure. And I think Kelly has actually made, she hasn't made me one, I'll point out, but she has made one of the children, a 3D birthday card like this in the past. So that is amazing though, Alana Claire. And honestly, like I got quite a few birthday cards from the family. This is my favorite card, I don't mind telling you. So, thank you. That was really awesome.
Incredible. I love it.
All right. So there you go. That's our back padding out of the way. Let's get into this thing. Ashley, episode 3, book 3, Proverbs, Midnight Mass. That's our topic tonight.
I know I literally say this every episode. This is such a good episode. This is such a good episode, though.
Well, they're all quite good.
It is. This is a lot. You see a lot of vulnerability. You see a lot of honesty in this episode. It's excellent. I love it hard.
So Flan-Again, in some ways, I feel like it's a cheat that he tends to work in miniseries format because you don't have the concern for leaving things on the table for later seasons, right? Well, what am I going to come back to the well to for whatever? He can literally pace it all out so that every episode can have its own kind of feel and its own mood and its own moment that makes you go, oh, what a great episode.
Right.
So that
and
even looking back.
He doesn't have to rush either. Like it's the best of both worlds in that case, for sure.
Oh, man. Okay, but this one, from the start, I thought it was Forgive Me, Father. It's not Forgive Me, Father. I'm not Catholic, and so I forget this because I base mine off the movies, right?
Right.
Bless me, Father.
Bless me, for I
Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. And then he corrects himself. No, that's not right. Bless me, Lord, for I'm about to sin.
Yes. It's so good. And it sets up it sets up the whole episode for what we're going to find out. Like you get the whole reveal of the thing in this episode, and it's done so well, and it's paced so well. There's so much that happens, in between the telling of the thing, and it's so well done. It's so well done when you forget that you were hearing that story. I just finished rewatching this episode, and it's like when it's time to flash back to this confession, I'm always like, oh fuck, I forgot this was going on. Like we got all this other stuff going on. I forgot that this is the thing in this episode.
Yeah. Well, It's the only episode in the series, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the only episode that's framed like this, with flashbacks.
Yeah.
Everything else is just a straightforward story.
Yeah, except yeah, absolutely. I mean, even the first episode isn't really flashbacks. It's just that's where we're starting. We're starting with the accident.
Prologue.
Yeah.
And then Riley's on the island. Right.
Yeah,
which makes you think in that first episode especially, you think like Riley's your hero, but it's like really a story about the whole village. That becomes evident. But this is so evident. I mean, in this moment, in the opening of this, it's not even clear that this is before, right? When he says, I'm about to sin, you don't know exactly that this is coming before the events, even of the first episode. So it's excellent the way that they do this.
It's framed really well.
I've got some feedback that we're going to sprinkle throughout the episode. It occurred to me last week. I was listening and watching back to what we had done, and I was like, God, we did feedback for 25 minutes before we talked about the episode. So I'm going to try to put pertinent feedback where it comes. Mandy Taylor had a lot of good things to say. She said, especially I appreciated the conversation about prison last week and the mention of the 13th, the documentary. That was great.
We did go deep on jail, didn't we?
Yeah, she said, and so it's great because I took this feedback and put it here. She says, I feel out of sync to bring up episode 3, but you've obviously seen it, crying face. This was on the comments for episode 2. I'm just trying to will you to talk about 2 things that strike me as so much genius going on there. First off, in this show and in so many places it's used, I love the storytelling device of the confessional. This is in the interview with the vampire pilot. Obviously, I'm looking at you. It's such a smart way to legitimize internal thoughts being spoken aloud that might be out of place elsewhere in a scene, and long exposition that could be tedious elsewhere. Add to this, as Father Paul is telling the story of his resurrection of sorts, the wooden etchings being shown like the Stations of the Cross. Holy moly. I'm so glad to be rewatching this and paying closer attention. It's dynamite. Okay. I probably would have called it out as Stations of the Cross and thought to myself, oh, that's a weird religion thing that we ought to talk about.
Right.
But I don't know that I would have if Mandy hadn't commented on it. So, Mandy, thank you for reminding me. And this is absolutely something like we did about transubstantiation or whatever. We absolutely need to talk about this because it's great as a framing device, but it's even better when you know what it is representing. Okay, so they're woodcuts is what we see, and they're portraits that tell the story of Father Paul. Right. But it's one snapshot at a time. They're mimicking a thing that you will still see in Catholic churches and in mainstream churches. I thought in my head that I'd seen this even in Methodist churches, and I was right. It's in all 3 of the mainstream American denominations, Presbyterianism, Episcopalians, and Methodists. They all have the Stations of the Cross in there. Not every church, but many churches have it.
Right.
So the point of it, though, it started with something called the Via Crucis, which is the way of the cross. And the original idea was it was an actual processional, a physical processional that you took place in Jerusalem. And the idea was that it was symbolizing the path that Jesus took to Mount Calvary for his crucifixion. And then that got externalized and taken to everywhere by installing these things in churches. Often they are paintings or portraits or wood cuttings. Sometimes they are statuary. I think this was in D.C. that I saw. I think it's in the National Cathedral, maybe. But there's a church in D.C. where the Stations of the Cross are statuary, and it is like there's a Pieta for one of them, like the Mary holding the body of Christ. Yeah. It's amazing. Okay, so here are the traditional Stations of the Cross. Traditionally, there are 14 of them. Originally, there were 7, and it's what we now think of as Station 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 11, and 14. Those were the ones that originally showed up, and that got expanded and codified into these 14. So we see Jesus is condemned to death. That's number 1. Then Jesus takes up his cross. Jesus falls for the first time with the cross. Jesus meets his mother is number 4. Simon of Cyrene helps Jesus carry the cross. That's 5. Veronica wiping the face of Jesus with Veronica's veil is number 6. Very important for us Vampire Chronicles fans. Jesus falls for the second time is number 7. Jesus meets the women of Jerusalem is number 8. Jesus falls for a third time is number 9. Jesus is stripped of his garments, sometimes called the division of robes. That's when in some of the versions you literally see the soldiers casting lots for his robes. That's in number 10. Station 11 is Jesus is nailed to the cross. Station 12 is Jesus dies on the cross. Station 13, Jesus is taken down from the cross. And station 14, Jesus is laid in the tomb. So interesting to me that they go further than crucifixion, but don't go to the resurrection.
Right.
So not in every version, and this isn't an official, but in many churches you will find an unofficial 15th station which does show the resurrection, because apparently I'm not the first one to think it's weird.
You didn't finish the story.
Yeah, when
a cliffhanger.
Right? When I was growing up, that was the mark that my branch of Protestantism would sling against Catholics. They would say, "Oh, Catholics leave him on the cross," because the crucifix, especially the one in front of the church, would have Jesus hanging on the cross. Whereas in Protestant churches, you don't see Jesus on the cross; it's just the blank cross. Interesting to me that they would go further than crucifixion, but not go to the resurrection in the official version. Leaving him in the tomb is weird. Like an empty tomb would be one thing, I guess. Anyway, so that's the official original Stations of the Cross. And you are literally supposed to go either individually or as a congregation. Sometimes there's a whole service where everybody goes, but you move from station to station, saying a prayer at each station, contemplating the moment for Christ and contemplating overall Christ's sacrifice. That's what this is reminiscent of. That's what this is showing. And when you know that, you realize, even from moment 1 before it gets weird, you realize how off Father Paul, Father Monsignor Pruitt, imagining his own story in the Stations of the Cross is. No, sir. As a priest, you are not supposed to imagine yourself as the one that's going through the...
It is pretty... It's one of those first indicators that, he's a little off. He and him... The way he's seeing himself is off as well.
Yes.
It's not just about... Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's, yeah.
It's just so inspired. They're lovely, first of all, as works of art.
Oh, man.
But also they're grotesque, which is just as you'll find them in many churches. That is the thing.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because I literally had this conversation with I said in the opening that I had lunch with a preacher, and I did. My wife and I have most recently, and I mentioned this recently, I think, on the show, we were Methodists most recently. We attended a Methodist church, and I ended up leaving the church because it was clear that our local congregation was about to leave the Methodist denomination, and they were going to leave it over effectively the question of LGBTQ.
Right.
The fact that the denomination as a whole seemed to be on the verge of accepting members of the LGBTQ community.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this was a huge thing, a worldwide denomination kind of split sort of weird thing that I know a lot of people that were very affected by this particular situation within the Methodist Church.
What's interesting is the official doctrine of the church had not changed. Nothing was different. And effectively the doctrine of the church was this: members of the LGBTQ community can't be clergy.
Right.
But there are no limits on who can be a member of the congregation, right? And who can join and who's welcome at the table. That's the very nature of Methodism. And also
the concept of you're not welcome at the table.
Well, but the concept of their of that denomination in particular sort of lent itself to, hey, you and I may disagree on many smaller questions of faith.
Right.
We agree on the large questions of faith, and we have agreed to congregate together and be a community together. And so this was supposed to sort of fall in those. And very frankly, in every Methodist congregation, and this is true for Presbyterians and Episcopalians too, I know, there have for generations been the older woman or man who have been in that congregation for 40 or 50 years and have never had a partner. Or maybe, well, no, I'm talking about who have been an LGBTQ member,
right there,
but just they didn't wear it on their sleeve, perhaps, and everybody was fine with it as long as nobody had given them marching orders to be mad about it. That's effectively what happened, Ashley. And this is a tangent that we don't have to get into big, but I will say quickly because it's heavy on my heart, honestly. In America, never mind the religion of it all, never mind the faith of it all, never mind the salvation of it all. But in America specifically, I think we had a civil society because the vast majority of our population every Sunday morning went to the same building, right? Or you had a few big churches in most communities and everybody went there. And yes, that was also a very segregated time, but all of the African American population would also go to one or two buildings together. And so what happened was, yeah, you voted for Bush and I voted for Gore, or you voted for Dukakis and I voted for Bush or whatever. But I didn't sling mud at you and you didn't sling mud at me, and I didn't think you were evil and you didn't think I was evil because we went to church together every Sunday morning and our kids were in the same groups and whatever, right? And what happened was 40, I think it's about 45, 40, maybe 50 years ago now, there was a very concentrated movement from the right wing of American politics on the Southern Baptist Convention specifically. And the question was over female leadership of any kind. There were some churches that had allowed, not female clergy even, but literally female teachers and things. And it was hard line, and they kicked everybody that was maybe even mildly progressive out of the seminaries, and they purged the denomination as a whole. And now what has happened over the last 10, 15 years, the same thing has happened to the Presbyterians first, and then the Methodists were second. I don't think there's actually been a schism in the Episcopalian Church yet, but a lot of people were shaken out of the Episcopalian Church over these same sentiments. Effectively, they got walking papers from their political leaders that their church was no longer good enough, or their denomination was going woke, and so they had to get out. And so you had this exodus for a while, but then with the Methodists specifically, they were very successful, especially in the South. And you had mass amounts of local churches that decided that the whole church wanted out of the denomination. So anyway, that's what happened to us. We had a local church left the denomination, and we've got now from the Methodists, from the proper United Methodist Church, we've got a local pastor who's been assigned, and she's kind of trying to ramp things back up. And she's met with my wife a few times. They get along really well. They've got a good friendship going. She and I had not really gotten to speak. She was just interested in hearing me out and talking about some things. So I talked to her about some things today. But one of the many things that we glossed over at some point. Did you guys
talk about angels and vampires? I'm just kidding.
Well, funny enough, we sort of did. I referenced the fact that I do this show with you, and she said, "Oh my gosh, do you know that Anne wrote a couple of books about Jesus?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm very, very fond of them actually." And she didn't know that the movie The Young Messiah was based off the first Anne Rice Jesus book, and she was like, "That makes so much sense now." I was like, "Do they do the thing in the movie where he kills the doves?" And she's like, "Yes." I was like, "Okay, it's apocryphal text, but Anne put it in the book." And I wondered if she's like, "Yeah, they totally did that in the movie. That makes so much sense now." Anyway,
that's wild.
We had a little moment about that. But I was telling her about this and how this show, one of the many things that it does is it does remind me that my whole life and our whole American society is sort of based on a blood religion, and how that's kind of weird when you think about it. And she got a big laugh out of that. She's a Methodist pastor. Her husband's Catholic though.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, and she told me when they were dating, they were arguing one day about church and the fact that communion for her when she went to mass with him was closed because she's not a practicing Catholic.
Oh.
Yes, and she said she called him a cannibal. She said you can just be a cannibal by yourself then because of the host, like we talked about last week. So anyway, she and I had some good laughs about all of this stuff today, but this imagery here that they're using, I want to call that out. And it occurred to me after Mandy said it, I'm like, oh, they're telling us up front, Father Paul, Monsignor Pruitt, he's off the rails.
Yeah.
He's a false priest. He's a false teacher at this point, and don't be led astray.
because he's had what he thinks is his own miracle, that he's been chosen, and it's so fated. I just happened to be so old and so confused and lost in the storm. I wandered into this cave and I got fucking eaten by an angel. Why? That's an angel? An angel, brother? My God. That is not an angel I've ever... No, I look at that and I'm like, that's a fucking vampire. And I thank my lack of religion that I wasn't confused that was a fucking vampire and not a damn angel.
Well, it's what we said last week about examination. Like, that's what the show is telling you. There's nothing like, look, man, I'm you know what I believe most heart, like my number one tenet is from Frank Sinatra. He said, I'm for whatever gets you through the night, man.
Yeah.
I'm for whatever gets you through the night. Listen, it is a lonely, dark, cold world out there, full of people that want to hurt you, honestly. Yeah. And that's the sad fact of the thing. Like, we live in a savage garden, to quote our boy Lestat over there on the Anne Rice show. But like, on top of that, though, there is beauty and there is wonderful, heightened experiences for us to have together and alone.
And even the sad,
we have to be open to all of that.
Yeah, in order to have the good and the wonderful, you have to be open to the sad and the awful and the horrible. I mean, you don't get to love without loss. That's not a thing. And I've had to deal with a fuckload of death in my life and losing friends at very young ages and a parent at a young age and that sort of thing, and grandparents. I mean, my God. But I always tell, we lost one of our very best friends a few years ago, and my thing was like, no, like, grief is the due that you owe for having loved. Grief is what you have to pay. It's like I mean, the bill has come when it's time to grieve, and that's what it is. It's like, it's what you have to exchange to get to love and to live and to experience things fully. And I think, this is such a way to hide from it. It's such a way to, avoid the inevitable. The fact that he's wanting to bring this angel back to the people who really need it. And he's convinced himself that they need this. It's so strange because they're fine. Like, I mean, they're not thriving, but like, these people aren't like, they're fine. They're having a really fucking hard time and life is difficult, but they're good people. They love, they live, they lose. It's so strange to me that it's like he's trying to put in a cheat code for them.
The thing that occurred to me, and again, it's around that question from Mandy about, hey, did you guys notice the wood cuttings? And I'm like, oh man, that set it all off. Ashley, he could have just taken it. He could have just been like, oh my God, what a thing. You've given me a whole nother life, and I can't believe I had dementia, and like, I've been in this haze. That's late. Oh no, it's in this episode.
It's in this episode.
Mildred says, I was somewhere dark.
And I just woke, and
Listen, somewhere dark. We're going to talk about that later, so I'm not going to do that right now. But Father Paul, though, Monsignor Pruitt, could have taken this moment and just gone and lived a life. He could have enjoyed his, nefarious nocturnal existence. But no, he wanted the thing that he hadn't had the balls to take before. He wanted the life that he had sort of let slip by.
Yes.
He talks himself into, I brought this so that Lisa could walk. No, fuck, you didn't.
You didn't, because one of the first
things you did it for selfish reasons.
Yeah, is run to Miss Mildred's house to give her fucking host. Boop, bop, boop. Here, drink this wine, ma'am. And doesn't miss a day with her, even when he falls sick, later in this episode. And she's like, I'll cancel all your appointments. And he's like, well, there's some we don't miss.
But y'all, I mean, this is like, the good, Don Vito Corleone does not think that he's a villain. Michael, when he kills Fredo, doesn't think that he's a villain. Darth Vader and fucking Emperor Palpatine don't think that they're villains. They think, I'm holding the universe together with spit and grit and goodwill because that's what it takes to maintain order and savagery, is what
Obi-Wan Kenobi, right?
I mean, yeah.
That's the villain. That guy's the villain, you know.
Well, okay, but again, you go to the prequels, like the Jedi are doing all sorts of nefarious shit at that point.
It's so true.
And they are convinced that it's for the greater good.
Perspective is everything. You know, like Obi-Wan is the villain to Anakin, you know, like that is straight up. That asshole cut my arms off and cut my leg off and left me in a pool of lava. And
was probably stealing my wife.
Yeah,
was probably stealing my wife.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, held me back, wouldn't let me become a master, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what Father Paul. I mean, that's what Monsignor Pruitt has done here too. He's convinced himself that death is some cheat or which is so specifically disgusting when you think about the conversations that he's had with Riley about like suffering can be a blessing and this thing and the other thing and all these platitudes, and he means them when he says them, but at the same time it's because he has not put he's not using reason. He has not examined his own set of circumstances and situation. He has not examined his own bias. So that's what this show is screaming at you folks. It's not, again, this is not anti-religion either. Although it is saying the tenets of religion make it inherently it makes it even more important for you to examine who are my leaders and what are they asking me to do and for what reasons and where are we headed with all of this.
Who is my daddy and what does he do?
Who is your father and what does he do?
What does he do?
Mendi Raftery says, I think I learned so many facts about the Catholic Church from watching Midnight Mass and listening to you guys. Don't know the ins and outs of the Catholic Communion or Lent. I'm Protestant, so every time I go to a wedding or funeral mass, I have always skipped it. You did right, Mendi. The priest would be proud of you.
That's right.
Don't take communion if you're not Catholic.
So are the rest of us heathens. We're proud of you, too.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Holly Robertson says, Riley's conversation with Father Paul felt like it was coming directly from my own mouth. I was raised in northeastern Arkansas, and Ashley is absolutely correct about the majority of churches here. Most of my family is still there, and believe me when I say Bible thumpers are still alive and well. The churches in that area, which there seem to be more of than gas stations, banks, and restaurants, collect money from the needy more often than not. This is not to say that they are all the same, just most in my experience. Every church we ever went to when I was growing up just piled on the shame and guilt from a very young age. Yuck. By the time I was 20, I was completely over it. I became a pagan at that time and have been for over 20 years now. Couldn't be happier.
Get it, girl.
Happy early Sam Hain for you. Sam Wayne, right. Sam Wine, Sam Han. All the, I don't know. We're still not pronouncing it right, probably.
Pronunciation you can imagine.
They're all wrong and all right all at the same time.
None of them are valid and all of them are correct.
Right. None of that matters though, Ashley. Let's talk about fucking Holly Holy.
Holly Holy Love.
Put it in my fucking veins.
It's a great tune. It's a great tune.
This is how badass Neil Diamond is. This is the follow-up to Sweet Caroline. That motherfucker, he's like, oh, you like them apples? How you like these apples?
Here's something entirely different.
A single on October 13th, 1969, reached number 6 on the pop charts. It's a love song, right? Mm-hmm. It's about Holly. Holly's just a girl, but but it's spiritual. It feels like Brother Love's Traveling Salvation Show, right?
Yeah.
Which comes later, I think. Here's the two lines.
Vibe. I love it.
It is a whole vibe. We're going to talk about we're going to talk about this song for a minute, guys. So settle in. But
it's a whole montage. We get a good montage.
Two things specifically. Oh, it's the best in this show. It's the best montage in the whole show, and there are a couple more.
It's very good.
But it's one of the best montages ever, maybe. It's so well done, and the song obviously helps that. But here's the two lines I want to call specifically. Call the sun in the dead of the night, and the sun gonna rise in the sky. Touch a man who can't walk upright, and that lame man, he's gonna fly. And I fly, and I fly, and I fly. Holly holy love, holly holy rain, holly holy sun.
Holly holy dream.
First of all, Ashley, how accurately does this capture that first moment when you really know you're in love with somebody. Like, it's not, this is not infatuation. They're not around for a little while. Like, this bitch is forever.
Like,
this
in your
is
gut.
my dog. This is my person. Doesn't this fit it? Like, oh,
yeah,
the
it does.
dream of only me.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's also one of those songs, kind of like it's one of those songs that can be misconstrued as well. Like, if you don't, it does have like this very kind of spiritual vibe to it, but it is a love song, and it is about a woman. It is about being in love. You know, it's like we would giggle when Take Me to Church came out, and that's a song about, you know, getting some, and like sweet little ladies were like, I love that song. Take me to church. It's beautiful. And you're like, that is not what about what you think it's about, ma'am. So it has got this little like sort of like cheeky secret to it as well, which I like.
Here's what's really funny, and you wouldn't know this, Ashley, because you haven't, you know, you're a true heathen. You haven't been in church in decades.
True heathen over here,
you know,
y'all.
one of the things that you get in a lot of contemporary worship services, and one of the knocks that older Christians will make against those types of services is, oh, they don't sing hymns. They just sing Jesus is my boyfriend songs, you know?
Yeah, Jesus is my boyfriend.
Jesus is my boyfriend. And a lot of the language is very like, it's effectively a love song that you're writing, but it's about your Savior, right? And there are, if you go read Psalms, there are some that read like that, right? David is communing with his God in a way that is the best language that he has for it is a romantic language, right?
Right.
So that kind of makes sense, I guess. The other thing, though, that it strikes for me is like, in many, like, Jesus ain't here. God's not here. Buddha's not here. Allah's not here. Muhammad is not here physically.
Right.
Confucius also not here. Like, there's not it's not exactly the same, but I'm trying to include everybody. My point is, you can't, in general, religious devotees cannot throw their arms around the physical manifestation of their religion and give them a big old hug, or get one either. Physical love with a romantic partner is, in its own way, like a mirror of our devotion to God, our thankfulness for this creation, right? It's a celebration of our existence and to become one, right? There's a mystic thing in that, right? So I do think there's something for all of this. The other thing, though, that it made me think of, like, Neil's not the only one that did this shit and did it good. Somebody did it lately, did it real good. Justin Bieber. I'm gonna throw him his flowers when he needs them.
Biebs. Sweet little
The song
Biebs.
is called Holy. Here's some lyrics for you. I hear a lot about sinners. Don't think that I'll be a saint, but I might go down to the river, 'cause the way that the sky opens up when we touch, yeah, it's making me say, holy, holy, that the way you hold me, feels so holy, 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 holy. On God, run into the altar like a track star. Can't wait another second, because the way you hold me, feels so holy, holy, holy. Anyway, it's a good song if you hadn't heard it. Go check that one out too. It's not Neil Diamond, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say.
It's Justin Bieber, but
it is the same feeling. It is the
spirit.
exact same. He heard Neil Diamond and went, yeah, it does feel like that, brother.
Yeah.
Yes. When you are in love, it does feel like it's work. There's a reason we use the word adoration. Right? Adoration is worship. That's what adoration, when you adore someone, you worship that person, is what you're saying. So Neil laid it out here in poetry. Y'all appreciate what you're getting here.
And you're seeing within the montage, you're seeing more and more people show up to church as people have learned about Lisa's miracle, and they've seen her walking around town. And we see Riley's parents dancing in the living room. His dad's back is suddenly magically healed. And they're having, like this, they're reconnecting in a way they haven't in a really long time. And it's fucking beautiful. It's lovely. It's very, very lovely. And but within that, you have this throng of people now coming into this church every day. And you can just feel like more and more. And when you know and understand what's happening, you can just feel this religious like almost like an ecstasy, kind of like
it's a fervor. It builds to a fever pitch,
and it does feel, it's starting to feel real culty to me, like,
but
this
the song
feeling
does it too. literally, okay, so you went back and watched the whole episode, like right before we started this recording. I literally it was like I was getting ready for game time or something. I put my headphones on, I turned on noise cancellation, and I put on Holly Holy, and I was just listening, okay? But here's what I want you to go do. If you don't like Neil Diamond, do exactly that. Put in headphones, be quiet, listen to the song, and see if this does not happen to you. The first time you go through the chorus, okay, it hasn't swept you away. The second time, all right, fine. I'm still not religious. I'm not dancing yet. When he comes in the third time, Holly, holy love, you cannot help but move your feet. And Mike does it too. The montage is building, and it's going all over the island. We're seeing everybody. We're seeing Riley finally getting back to life. There's meetings with him and Father Paul. We see steps. Everything's happening. Yes, exactly. Lisa is fitting back into life. She's going off with the boy. Cool things are happening.
They're pissing in the boat. She's going up to the uppers. She's gonna smell like cat shit. Go, Lisa, go.
And we get to that moment when the chorus comes back in the third time, when even you who hate Neil Diamond are swept away in the moment. And that's when the congregation stands. As the music hits, you get the congregation, brum, bum, ba-da-bum, bumpa, and it's so perfectly done, because I gotta tell you, this is the point, y'all. This is the point. Some of the Germans were evil. Some of the Germans got caught up in the fervor. This is what this island gets caught up in the miracle. You can't go through that chorus 3 times.
Yeah.
Shit, I gotta go see Ali. I gotta go see what this is about. I want to go see what's
happening at this church. It's like this for him. I think too. It's like this. It's like this secret that he's not supposed to know about. It's like this. Like something's being kept from him a little bit, and
Hassan's forbidden it. Yes.
Yeah, you can feel this tension with him and his dad, and he's like, "No, like you don't understand what's going on there. You don't know because you won't go. So how can you tell me it's not these things? And then they have that great scene together. They have that great scene in his bedroom where he's like, where his dad basically says the thing that I say, which is this God, this magical, mysterious, this miracle working God didn't save your mother, who was the most devout, the most loving, the kindest, the most genuine, perfect person. If God's just willy-nilly throwing out miracles and he didn't give her one, that's not the kind of God that's an unkind, cruel God. That's that's just not how any of this, it's not how any of this works.
Yes, not at all. And honestly, that's something that I brought up. I told the pastor that I told y'all last week that if that was the kind of Jesus we had, I'd throw him out of heaven. I kind of forgot I'd said it until I started talking to the preacher, but I was like, I did say that. I'm in it too, though. Like, that's not the way God is. If that was God, I'd go join Memnoch for real.
Well, the thing is that it's not like what the fuck is that anyway? Like, what is that? What is a God that lets 17 kids get murdered in a school, you know, at the last period of the day on fucking Valentine's Day? Like, what God is that? So don't feed me that fucking line, because I am not buying it, and I don't like your God. I'll be honest. I don't like that God that you're talking about. That God that you're describing is too choosy, and fuck that guy. But you know what? I'm not getting into the trouble these people on this fucking island got into either.
Amen.
This shit ain't happening to me. Amen. Of all the fucking shit that could happen to me in horror movies, all the shitty situations I could put myself into that would lead to my eventual murder, this right here ain't one of them.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
I'm not drinking your Kool-Aid.
Okay, I missed it earlier. What was the very first station in the Stations of the Cross? I've got here marked the second station comes as Father Paul collapses on the pulpit. But what at the end of the song? But what was the first station? I can't remember. The first station, I guess. Paul? Yeah, when he's doing the confessional at the beginning. We see the first one at the very beginning, but I can't remember what the image is of. I guess it was just old Monsignor Pruitt.
It was at the wall.
Like up close. That was the very first one, is him at the Wailing Wall?
Maybe.
Anyway, okay. So there was your first one at the beginning when he's in the confessional. The second one comes here. We see the second Station of the Cross as he collapses on the pulpit at the end of the montage and everything.
So in this here, what do you think's the deal? Is the deal that he was bitten, he drank, so obviously he has consumed this magical blood that has made him younger, gotten rid of his dementia. He's not dead. He hasn't died.
That's what doesn't make any sense to me.
So he's not.
He has. That's the thing. Is his body doesn't die until later in this episode.
And he's sick because he's not eating anything. I assume, like he's not consuming enough blood, or he's not. Like,
I mean, I think vampirism kills you, right? Even if you're. Right. I think vampire. So like for instance,
well, look what happens to Lucy.
What's the mama later? The old lady. Mildred. Mildred Gunning. I think Mildred would have eventually died, regardless of the rest of what happens in this series, just because she's taken the blood so much
from consuming so much of it.
Which we see the effects on that later. But I think in the youngening, somewhere along the line, your body gives up because the vampirism overcomes it. We don't get a lot of explanation. We don't, like, for instance, why does our angel look the way that our angel does? You know, we don't know exactly.
No, but that's a fucking vampire, y'all.
Yeah, sorry.
Have you not seen Nosferatu? Fuck, that's a vampire.
But okay. I mean, I honestly, it's been a long time since I've seen Nosferatu properly, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to Eggers is pretty scary in a normal movie. This new Nosferatu from Robert Eggers,
I'm excited.
I watched the trailer and I got the honest to God heebie-jeebies. I don't know if I can handle it. I'm like, you might have to watch it and just tell me about it.
And tell you.
And then what happened? Oh my God, they did what?
Oh, we do have, speaking of, we have two.
That'll be for patrons only in case you're interested. $2 or more a month, you'll have access to Ashley explaining Robert Eggers' Nosferatu to me.
It'll be a frame-by-frame exploration of the film in case Joel cannot handle it.
And then he did what? But okay, but in the original
nightlight on.
So in Dracula, even in the novel, there is old Dracula who looks sort of gnarly, and there's young Dracula, right. And the implication is that honestly he could have chosen a younger form even when he was at the castle. Maybe it was an issue if he hadn't been refreshed, but yeah, it's like all just about glamour.
It's like
you're saying he never looks good.
It's the glamour.
Boy, that would make much more sense. That would make much more sense if he was always gnarly. Because he's gnarly at the end after they stab him.
We see what we see. We see what he wants us to see.
That's a good... Boy, I'm a big dummy, honestly. Actually, no, I really thought he got handsome. I
think that... But I've always just been like, that's a little trick he plays. That's a little trick he plays.
Yeah, of course it is. Of course. I mean, okay, so I recently read some of the Anita Blake series from Laurel K. Hamilton, and I had forgotten, honestly, but all of the vampires in her world do that. Like, some of them are pretty, but none of them are, like, sparkling, jump my bones pretty, and they all feel that way because they all use glamour to one level or another, depending upon how good they look anyway. Very interesting. All right, since we're talking so much about Monsignor Pruitt, which I'm now going to switch to saying, I cannot tell you how hard that was for the first 2 episodes not to slip up and just say it.
Well, I mean, I've watched this fucking series so many times. It's really hard for me sometimes to remember what happened in which episode. Like, I thought all the people coming around to talk to them after the service, like, my husband, he's been so sick. I thought that was in the last episode. Bev Keane with her fucking poison bottle. I was pretty sure it was in the last episode too, but here we are. Chekhov's can of poison one more time.
Okay, so yes. So first of all, Laura Will Swink said, if you'd like to catch Hamish Linklater in another great show from another great showrunner, Legion on FX by Noah Hawley. Such an amazing series. Yes, Hamish gives another compelling performance. So I had seen I had seen Legion. I couldn't remember Hamish, and obviously I didn't know him from this when I watched Legion.
Right.
So he plays Clark Debussy and is in all 3 seasons. He's known as the Interrogator. He was a Division 3 agent. I think there's like a government agency that deals with Legion's bullshit in that series from pretty early on.
Very cool.
And I think he's like one of the point men for it, is how he comes into the series. But yeah, he is really good in that in retrospect, and that is a great series. Noah Hawley's done all sorts of good stuff. He did the Fargo series for FX.
Oh, yes.
And he's finished now, but it's not out, obviously. There's going to be an Alien series from him.
What?
Yes. And they put out like a press release recently. It's set on Earth. So there you go.
Shit.
If you're an Alien fan.
I
know, right? That's I was like,
no.
Game over, man. Game over.
No, Xenomorphs on Earth. No, thank you. Oh,
okay.
It's gonna be so scary.
I want to ask you though. Try to go back in your mind the first time you saw this. Did you know who Father Paul was before?
By this time, I had come to it. By this time,
okay.
Yeah, by this time I had come to it. This wasn't the big reveal that it could have been for me, but
right.
It is something I had figured out a little bit ahead of time. I mean, from Jump Street, literally from I dragged this chest into this room, I knew that it was a vampire. You know,
That's
I was
a fucking
like,
vampire box.
But I was like, they got a vampire box. They got a vampire box. And I was like, I wasn't 100% sure if the old Monsignor was now the vampire and was in the box, and then this was like a new young situation that we were dealing with. I didn't know for sure. But by this point, with his dealings with Mildred were really, really telling to me. And the fact that she now was like, people are seeing this young version of him around. And those were all like kind of hints and clues to me as well. Like Riley sees Monsignor
He
Pruitt
says Monsignor
that
Pruitt.
night.
Yes.
He sees him that night because we see him running in the fucking hat and shit because he can.
Well, but it's not Monsignor Pruitt. It's the angel. That's the vampire in Monsignor's coat and
his
hat.
clothes.
We see him not in this episode, but we see him in a future episode.
Yeah.
Very clearly in that
in
coat
disguise.
and the hat.
Yeah.
He's just using it to cover up the wings that we see in this episode. Yeah, so that's when he ran on the beach, it was the vampire. And so that's in my mind, I was like, but see, okay, that was what I thought was happening. I thought that Monsignor Pruitt was the creature in the box, and that Father Paul was his young minion somehow that he had pulled along the way, right? I thought that and honestly, it was just because this performance from Hamish is so good, but I had convinced myself that Father Paul was caught up in it, not the cause of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's sort of true, but like, fuck Monsignor Pruitt. Fuck him.
And
You
that's
shouldn't have brought this back.
Right. No, you don't fucking take a vampire home with you.
No.
Ew. You can't just take anything home on vacation. Like, you're supposed to not pick up rocks and shit. And you brought home a whole ass vampire?
Trace.
Leave no trace. Don't stack those rocks up. Fucking don't do it.
So the third station of the cross is the sandstorm that, and I love this line, unearthed ancient ruins in the desert. I love his delivery on all of this stuff. There's a line earlier that I skipped in my notes. He says, as adults, we tend to dislike mysteries. We feel uncomfortable not knowing. Boy, that is so true. The not knowing is a problem. It's honest. Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons why you get people that are inflexible on overall universal ideas, like we were talking about earlier, and why you end up with this like division and everything turns into a fight and we've got to pick our sides and throw rocks at each other. I think it's because we don't like the not knowing. We're uncomfortable with questions and, well, I'm not sure how all of this is going to work out or where this is all going to go.
From them. You're discouraged from questions, especially when it comes to religion, questions of religion and faith. We are discouraged from asking questions in those environments. We're taught to accept what we are given, you know, and I think that is, you know, for the curious, religion is very challenging, I think. I think that, you know, like, I can't imagine being in an environment all the time where I'm not allowed to question things. It's so very, very odd to me. And I'm not accepting of that kind of space. But it's because I've not ever been forced to be in that kind of space. You know what I mean? Like, I would definitely get killed very early if the Nazis took over, because they'd be like, oh, this bitch is never going to go along with us. You know, like, because I am going to ask questions. I've got a big mouth. I want to know the why. I want to know why you think that. I want to know how you got there. I want to know what you think the results are going to be. You know, like, I want to know everything.
Man, okay, you talk about being first on the wall, so to speak, from in the Nazi invasion. If you haven't seen it, I strongly recommend that you go see Jojo Rabbit.
Oh,
check that movie out. So, a beautiful, beautiful movie about a child growing up in Hitler Europe. But specifically, there's a moment with him, the little boy Jojo, and his mother, who's played brilliantly by what's her name? The Black Widow. God,
Scarlett Johansson.
Scarlett Johansson. God, I couldn't think. They come upon some people that have been hung, and you don't see the hanging; you just see the feet swinging there. And Jojo said, because you're seeing this all from Jojo's perspective, and Jojo says, well, "What did they do?" And she touches one of the shoes quickly, and then puts her hand down, and she turns to Jojo and she says, "All that they could." And then she leaves it at that. But like, that's what you're talking about, Ashley, is like, yeah, it's not like you don't, you're not John Connor, right? You're not going to save the world from Skynet in case the fascists come. And I don't have any delusions of that either. But like, I would ask questions loud enough in a way that they wouldn't like, probably.
I mean, that's always been my way. I've always been that girl. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you guys.
Okay. I want to acknowledge Joe Collie and I didn't look it up. I got to pull this actor's name. Do you know the actor's name off the top?
Robert Longstreet is his name, because I'm a huge fan of his. He is so good in Hill House, you guys. He does
amazing work throughout
and he's
this series.
Oh shit! Don't let me forget. I need to tell you about. We need to talk about Flan-Again's recent video about his cameo in this.
Oh,
I don't want us to get distracted from Joe Collie, but don't let me forget. No, he's amazing in this. This character is such a broken man. He's so, he's so broken. He's so broken. He can't leave. He doesn't want to leave, but he's got no place there really. It's not.
Oh, he says to Riley, "It just felt too easy to leave. Like, I shouldn't be able to
I
just
had to suffer.
leave.
I had to sit in this." Yeah.
But the moment that I want to call out here specifically, it's one of the greatest moments of pure physical acting, not physical comedy, but physical acting that I've ever seen. There's two, honestly, in this same scene, and both from him. But the first one comes the way that he reacts when he opens the door and it's Lisa on the other side of his trailer. He pulls back from her like she's radioactive. Yes, literally, that's the word. He recoils as if his body is a spring, and it is so perfect for the relationship that they have and what her presence means to him.
Do too. What she's there, like, he doesn't know what she's there to say and what she's there to do.
Is he has no frame of reference for what it could be. What it ends up being is almost worse than what he could imagine it is, right?
No, and this girl, this monologue, this little gal fucking nails this shit. Like, she kills this monologue, slays this scene so hard. She is gutting and heart-wrenching when she says, "You reached through time and you stole from me."
You stole from me, Joe Collie.
Oh my God. And it's so, like, I just got chills because it's so fucking good. And she's so angry. And it's the first time she's ever been able to let go of that anger. And so it feels like such a gift to her that she's been given. This miracle is such a gift. She can let go of that anger. What the fuck? I can let go of that? I mean, she probably thought she was going to be angry her whole life.
That's exactly it, Ashley. That's the thing and honestly, that hadn't occurred to me until this viewing. She is really brilliant. You're right. Let's give her flowers too. I was praising Joe. But you can't do this scene without the two of them, and they bring an electricity to it, which is really, really off the charts. And this sort of thing doesn't happen, I think, very often on film. But yeah, that's the thing for her, is she's there. She's burdened in this moment before she gets to the trailer, because there is such a weight of this anger and hatred for him, that has been lit like, she didn't do anything to take it off. She didn't even pray for it, honestly. It got pulled off of her because of this miracle that's been given to her. And she's now burdened because she held the hatred for so long. She's got to go and tell him that he's the only thing in the way of him having a good life now. Get the fuck out of your way, Joe. Yeah. I'm not there anymore.
If I can forgive you, Joe Colley, anyone can.
Anyone can forgive you, Joe.
Oh my God!
Listen,
Louisa,
when you said just then, you reached through time and stole from me, Joe Colley. That line, I want to. There's several I wrote down. I want to make sure. I hate you. Honesty is important, so we'll start there. I hate you, Joe Colley. I want you to beg for my forgiveness so I can tell you no. First of all, that's a nice rewrite of what is a lesser line, honestly, from the Watchmen comic, where he says, I want to stand above the city and watch them cry out to me for salvation, and I scream back, no, or whatever, you know. This whole thing is beautiful. But then when she says that, you stole from me, you reached through time, Joe Colley, and you stole things that I didn't even have yet. The way, and then this is the second, I said there's two of the best pieces of physical acting I've ever seen. Here's the second one. The way that he reacts to her forgiveness. And it's a combination physical, and he does make a sound. But the sound is from his toenails. Oh, my God. It's inside of him, and he's just watch that
dog die. It's that man is such a good actor. He's so it's this guttural kind of like cry that's just been wanting to crawl out of his body for so long, like the shame of it, the fucking utter shame of how he feels, that sadness, the regret, the absolute fuckery that your mistake has changed someone in this way, and you have to watch it every single day. It's like he's decided that's his own penance, is that he has to stay there and fucking look at her and look at what he's done, It's just...
It's interesting, because to me, we're going to skip ahead here slightly, but it mirrors to me, I think, the story of Mildred and Mildred Gunning when she has her awakening and she's talking to Sarah. And she describes it, we mentioned it earlier, but she says, I was somewhere dark, and I just woke up now. I've talked about it on The Articulate Coven. I believe I've talked about it on this show too. My father died of dementia a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And that is how I feel. Even now, I think I'm like, fuck cancer and fuck Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Fuck both right in the ear.
Yeah. I mean, well, and my dad drank himself to death. So when I see Joe Colley, I see my dad in a lot of ways, and sometimes I wonder, like, what could have been the thing that could have told him that the only thing standing in his way was him, like,
what was it that you could have, or someone could have pulled out of his life that would have made that clear? And even then, by the way, to be fair, Joe does the work after this moment, right? Like, Joe takes the steps that he needs to towards redemption.
You gotta
and that's
fucking
still
do
required.
That. That's required.
But that
dementia, though. It's the worst.
Well, that language of you reached through time and stole. Like, I think about the moments that my children could have had with my father as an old man. The moments that my children's children could have and should have had with my father and won't. And like, you reached through time and stole. That is a beautiful way to put it. It's a beautiful way to put it. Beautifully delivered, too. Since we're talking about Mildred, I want to put this in here. Lorianne O'Malley, which, by the way, thank you, Lorianne. You're a new patron.
Oh, hey, thanks, Lorianne.
Lorianne said, I also loved what Ashley said about being a caretaker. I have been a caretaker for my mom with dementia for 9 years now. She's at home in my house with me. Before she got sick, I was out 4 or 5 nights a week, seeing a lot of concerts and traveling. The last 9 years, my life has changed dramatically. Yep. I could relate a lot to the doctor in the series, Annabeth Gish, who also looks a lot like Amiee Brennahan from Judging Amy. I often wonder if I'll get my identity back when she is gone, or if the loss will have consumed me. My mom was very religious. I spent 14 years in Catholic education, played the organ in church. It was interesting to me how my mom perked up when she heard the old hymns. By the way, there is never a midnight mass at Easter, only at Christmas, so I was a bit confused when I first tuned in. I kept thinking, why are they talking about Easter? Easter Vigil Mass is usually at 8 p.m., and then there would be a Mass at sunrise. I am far removed from the Catholic Church now. It was surprising to me how cult-like it looks now. I doubt the Catholic Church will ever recover from the sexual abuse cover-ups, but there is so much to digest in this series. It addresses so many issues. It kind of felt like a therapy session for me. Lorianne, you are not alone in that feeling.
No, I mean, we're unpacking a lot of shit here, Lorianne. Well,
I have literally been blubbering a little bit the whole episode, so congratulations to y'all.
It's a lot. It's a lot. This, and that's the thing about Mike Flan-Again is he's telling really complicated stories with really complicated characters that are relatable, that you can see yourself in these characters. You can see the people that you love in these characters, and because they're very fucking real. And even though they're in these like crazy ass supernatural kind of situations, they are still real people dealing with real problems, real, not to go on and on about how much I fucking adore Mike Flan-Again, but his writing is just so good, and he understands the human condition as as a person who has recovered from addiction, as a person who has probably lived some really dark days and done things he is not proud of, and not that doesn't make him feel good, and to be able to come out on the other side of it and have the life that he really wants is awesome to see, and it's I think it just makes him a better creator.
I think you're exactly right. You can't write this stuff. And again, I know some people don't like his monologue. I don't understand how you listen to that Lisa monologue and complain about the monologues in this show.
His monologue,
this whole episode with the confessionals from Hamish, the whole thing is fantastic. Anyway, Lorianne, first of all, we see you.
Solidarity.
Good on you. Like, the work that you're doing now, we've talked about this on the show too. Go back and listen to how I talk about Lestat caring for his father. Like, there are things that you will never be able to replace, and the time that you're spending right now for your mother and with your mother, you're never going to be able to replace that. You'll be thankful you did later, and you won't have lost yourself. You will have changed,
version
probably.
Of yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, you're going to find a different version of yourself that probably is maybe a little bit more patient and a little bit more kind and a little bit more willing to go an extra mile. But also, you're going to be really angry and really sad and really really resentful about the time that you've lost, and all that's real, and it's okay, and you have to feel all of it. You can't shove any of it aside. You got to just fucking live in it, That's how we go.
You got to feel all of it. All of it. That's you were saying earlier about how, like, Monsignor Pruitt is effectively, with his plan here, he's cheating people of part of the process. He's stealing from them. He's reaching through time and stealing something that is part of the human experience. Loss and grief have a place.
Aging, dying is part of it, you guys. Like,
it is part of it. It is. We do understand that it's hard, and I don't have answers for you about the whys and the wherefores, but it is part of the process. There is a beauty in it, and we are supposed to experience it. So, like, that is its own monstrous message too, by the way. Don't get me wrong, we're not saying that there's no glad tidings there, really, honestly. I'm sorry. Hey, I do want to say, though, the music thing, man. So there's science in that. You said your mom perked it. First of all, kudos to you for watching Midnight Mass while your mom's in the room.
Oh my God.
Even with the dementia. So my dad, I don't know where your mother is. I shouldn't say that, but I will say this: even very, very late in the game, my father could not be in the room for anything that had any kind of like tense scenes at all. Like, He, even when he was healthy, he didn't like being in the room for ER to give you he would say, it just makes me nervous. So like when he was old, anything on the screen, or if there was any language or anything like that, like expletives, he'd fuss at my mother for having it on. So she started using headphones and would watch stuff on her iPad the last like year and a half. Anyway, the music though is absolutely real. My father was a music minister. He led the singing in our church my whole life before I was born. I think he was already leading singing there, and he led it until he literally could not do the words anymore, and he couldn't. He didn't know what he was doing. And my mom pulled him out of the pulpit finally and let somebody else take over. But by that time, he basically stopped attending as well, because he was at a place where he was physically, it was uncomfortable for her to get him out. She's like, I don't like for people to look at him. It's not, he wouldn't have, and he wouldn't want to be, Ugh.
Yeah.
But
why is even life so complicated and hard?
It's hard. It's hard, man. But even at the very end, I did have a few times when I would sing with him, and he wouldn't sing with me necessarily. He wouldn't go right back into the words. I've seen some people do that. I saw a beautiful video of an elderly opera singer, a male opera singer, who sang with this young girl. She's a girl in her 20s probably, and she's I guess a soprano, but she's hitting the high notes and doing the thing, and he comes in and gives her this great tenor undercurrent to her harmony, and I was like, oh, that's beautiful. My dad did it with my grandmother.
I saw that.
Oh, they could dance?
An old, like, she wasn't...
I mean, they do the steps?
She was... just the music, and she starts like moving her arms, and
I saw that video too. Yes, and she had the rhythm immediately, and yes, that was
music
lovely.
is very powerful.
I think that's the video. They were showing her a video of her in a film or something, weren't they? And she hadn't seen it in years or something like that. Yeah. My dad. The power of music is indescribable. It connects us through time and space, and there's a reason why there's music on that gold disc we sent through space. That's some of the best of what we have as humans. Some of the best that we can offer to another alien species. Like, this is what we have to offer you. This is what we can give you. That's the reason we spent 20 minutes talking about Holly Holy earlier, guys. Yeah. It's not just that we're secret Neil Diamond freaks. We are secret Neil Diamond freaks.
And the thing is, guys, I grew up driving around in cars listening to Neil Diamond with my dad. And my dad had this beautiful singing voice. And I would listen to him sing Neil Diamond all the time. So, like, for Joel and I, this is this is unpacking a lot of, like...
Yeah.
Deep shit for us. There's a lot in here for us to kind of sort through, and about how we feel about it. And for those of you that are sharing some really vulnerable shit with us, thank you, because we understand and we're right there with you, and I'm glad you feel like you can share those stories with us too, that we're a safe place to share that.
I just realized what my next two notes were in order, and this is going to be an interesting transition of conversation.
Good. I love it.
Okay, we're in the school again, and we have the meeting about the fact that Bev has been reading the Bible in the morning to homeroom.
This would piss me off so much as a student. Like this, I would be in trouble. I would probably be in a lot of trouble.
Me too.
This mouth.
Poor Hassan. He's there. He's trying to have a conversation with her, and she just keeps riding over him and explaining why that's not a concern, et cetera, et cetera.
And even Aaron's that's not what he's talking about. That's not the point of this at all.
Thank you for the opportunity to clarify. And he explains the fact that we know all about Jesus in Islam. He's a prophet, actually. We believe the Bible. Did you know that? Actually, we totally believe the Bible. We just think you have a bad translation, first of all. But also, that whole sequence where she keeps overriding him. This is the note that I wrote down. I said, Bev Keane absolutely can still eat a whole bag of dicks. Actually.
Yeah.
Just choke on them, in fact.
I'd like to smack her with them. Actually, before she has to
such a tremendous bitch.
Yeah,
such a tremendous bitch.
Look, listen, my public school is no place for religion. Children are required by law to fucking go to school. Religion has no place in a building that children are required to go to. Anything that's going to set a child apart and make them feel like not a part of it, to make them like, oh, well, you can just skip the prayer. Do you know what people think and say when you skip a prayer? I do. You look like a fucking heathen. and everyone judges you.
So first point, Bev Keane can eat a whole bag of dicks. Second point, I love this line from Joe Colley to Riley as they're saying goodbye after the meeting. They shake hands, funny. And he says, here's to becoming different people. Yeah. Joe asks him, does it ever feel different for us, for people like us? And he means alcoholics, but he also, Ashley, means the outcast.
Yeah.
The ones that aren't in the group, the ones that don't fit in wherever we are. Does this ever feel different? And Riley has the super honest answer. He's like, not really, Joe. Mm-mm. Nothing changes around us. Maybe
all the circumstances that made us what we are still the same. Like, we are the thing that has to change. If something's going to change, it's us. We change.
Yeah, let you be the change that you seek in the world. Like, yes, man. Like, and that's what Joe says. Here's to us becoming different people.
Yeah.
And that's such a beautiful encapsulation of what they're trying to do. And I mean, obviously, it is ill-fated, but like. Woo. It's a beautiful little moment from him. I love it.
It is. And it gives you hope for them. It gives you, like, you know, as a viewer watching it, you're like, oh my God, thank God they're not alone. You know, like, I can't, like, that's the whole point of fucking AA is to have a community.
Riley even tells him, I'm glad you were there, Joe. And, and Joe goes, you really mean that, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, the fuck I do. Yeah, I do.
Also, the two of them, like, walking and Joe smoking a cigarette, and the two of them just talking mad shit about Bev Keane. I love that scene. Like, I just love it. I'm like, yeah, fuck Bev Keane.
Okay, so that's the first. Riley talked about it a little bit in the last episode, but here's again we get the explanation from Joe's side, which is like as crass and crude as you can be. But you also feel like there's a lot of truth in it. Probably we speculated about it last week.
All truth in that.
She might not have literally hid money in a jar in her house or something, or she might not have a secret Cayman Island bank account. But she stole those people's money, sucked it up like that little tick on a dog.
And even the only thing she did with it was build this building to show off.
What value has it for the island so far? None. Joe
two drunks are sitting in there. Two drunks and a priest. Two drunks and a priest walk into a fucking bar.
A rec center.
You know? A rec center.
Two drunks and a priest walk into a rec center is the name of this episode.
Anyway,
titled.
I love the the visual of that space too. Like, it's got that like stage up at the top that's like in a fucking elementary school kind of vibe.
Yes.
And then the tile of the floor, it all just kind of like visually sort of goes into all of them sitting there in the center of the room. It's such a great design, a great production design, and the space is so no one's used the space. No one's using the space for anything.
So clear that there hasn't been anything in there. Like, Bev is so excited for the hurricane earlier because she's like, we can put people in the rec center.
God.
Okay. Here's a great line from Hassan that I want to unpack a little bit. Hassan and Ali have their prayer, which first of all, we see this in the montage too. The prayers are becoming shorter for Ali. Ali is doing his thing and getting up and trying to get gone to do something else. He's not hanging in the moment like he had been previously. Yeah. And here it comes to a head. Hassan tells him though, he says, I never want you to know what he asks Ali, do you know what it does to you? Do you know what pancreatic cancer does to you? I never want you to know what she went through. I bear that for both of us. Okay. You're like, yes, he's right. The kid should not know all the horrors that his mother went through.
But you don't bear the loss for your child.
Hassan's holding it over him here. Like, the secret knowledge of the terribleness that your mother... This is...
Well, and the sacrifice that I have to make to protect you from it, you know?
Yes.
This is like some emotional kind of manipulation that I'm not in love with here.
Yes. Well, and it just goes to show you that, like, Hassan's a good guy and he's trying to do the right things.
Right, but he's not perfect.
He's also caught up in a bad mental model about he's honoring his wife by all these things. Where genuinely he's not, honestly. His wife does not. His wife wouldn't want this hoarding it over Ali like this. This is not a life, honestly. Honestly, she wouldn't have wanted him to move to this island, probably.
Right. I was literally about to say that. I was like, they left everything they knew, and he was, and the kids, the kid's like, oh, it's because your department was so racist, but like they're not dealing with racism there. Like, come on.
Okay.
And it's so much in your, like, it's literally right in your face here, you know?
It's performative martyrdom is the thing that finally occurred to me this episode when Ali is raising this to Hassan. Hassan put himself on his own cross by moving to this island. He and his son are the only two brown people in hundreds of miles, surrounded on all sides by water. There's no outlet. He's got to literally take a boat to go and even experience his faith community.
To go to mosque. I mean, my God. Like,
Yeah. It's a 30-minute boat ride we hear later in the season, by the way.
Right.
It's a 30-minute boat ride one way. No, it's not a 30-minute ride. It's a 30-mile ride to the mainland in the boat. So, like, folks...
Well, they talk about, like, when he makes the offer for Riley, he's like, so you don't spend half your day on the fucking boat going back and forth.
It's performative martyrdom. My grandmother was a incredibly skilled practitioner of this. She would climb up onto her cross. I don't know how she nailed in both hands, but she was very skilled to do so. And then she would cry up there about how no one loved or appreciated all the sacrifice that she had made for this family. And it's like, that's what Hassan is doing here in this moment. That's what he's done with this entire experiment to move to Crockett Island. And in the end, it costs his family dearly. And I'd never considered him to have any real culpability in anything. But in this moment, I realized...
Everybody on this island has culpability.
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Like, they're all in this situation. They all stay in this situation. They all continue to follow. It's not great.
So we see...
This is how you end up with, like... literally, this is... Never mind. I'm not going to say that. That's just too much of a spoiler.
We see, though, in our 5th Station of the Cross, about this time in the episode, that Pruitt was attacked by the creature. And then we skip to Station 9. I don't know why we skipped station. Like, why? You could have just done 7 stations. I guess he wanted to hit 14. But you skip to Station 9. You see the winged angel is revealed for the first time. And then we get to Station 11 with the giving of the blood. And then finally, we skip to Station 14, which is the mission to find a way for the angel to travel and spread the good news. That's our 14th station.
Effort he had to put in to get this fucking monster to follow him is so wild to me. Like,
well, he implies, I mean, he says out loud the words, I stole and lied. But, like, did he kill? Did he kill a dock worker or somebody somewhere? I mean, he didn't say it out loud. But I got the feeling that there are several things already that Monsignor Pruitt is sorry for, sad about on that journey home, but blessed to have made the trip and to have been successful.
The end goal is worth it. What is going to be brought to these people is worth the sin. It's worth the effort. It's worth the danger. It's worth it. Like, he's convinced himself that he's going to be the salvation of his people.
It was literally that moment when he's dead on the floor in the church and he's making his last flashback and he's in the doorway of the cave and talking about this mission. That was the moment, finally, the first time that it clicked for me. Oh, that is Pruitt. It's been Pruitt this whole time. And which is interesting because we have the jump scare where he arises, he gasps and sits up, which is great. I love a jump scare where someone revives. I love a jump scare that's just a resurrection. Period.
I'm a dirty, filthy horror movie fan, and I love a jump scare. Gimme, gimme, gimme.
But Bev gives the game away here because we're surrounded. Sturge is in the building, and Wade, the mayor, is there.
And his wife.
Is Wade's wife there too? Yes, because they were talking about giving the speech, right? When Monsignor Pruitt first comes in. But so he's collapsed on the floor. He's dead. They've all been freaking out. He arises and she calls him Monsignor as she grabs him to nurse him back to health there and gives the game away, which is when our camera begins to zoom in on the newspaper clipping.
And we see Bev
Father
see
Pruitt.
That newspaper clipping when she's in there with him. Like the first time he collapsed. We don't see it, but when he collapses in the church and she follows him into his little house there, we see her, he's in the bathroom throwing up and we see her see it. So she knows.
Realizes it then.
That's when she knows. So she, like this fucking manipulative bitch, like she knows right then what's going on. That's so wild to me. I mean, she doesn't know the ins and outs of what's going on.
Probably
she knows what's up.
And again, there's so many red flags along the way for everybody that gets involved. There's so many moments where they could have looked up and gone, "Are we the baddies? You know, are we supposed to be doing this?" And even Wade, in the moment, even right here, has that reaction a little bit to what's going on. We're going to see more of it in the next episode. But anyway, there are moments for everybody where they could have turned around. That moment where Bev sees it on the wall, she had an opportunity there to ask some questions and get some clarification on what the heck's happening. But I think she just saw the opportunity. I think she was like,
Yeah, there's miracles at work here.
You know, I can't remember now which ones, but some of the disciples asked Jesus, and they were very concerned about which one would sit at his right hand when he was in his kingdom, you know. And that is Bev. She just feels certain that if she just buys in wholeheartedly here up early, she'll be at the right hand of Monsignor Pruitt when he ascends to his kingdom, you know. Anyway, it's bad motivations all the way around, and folks continue to delude themselves. So don't delude yourself. When the vampire comes to town, name him and claim him and put a stake in him. If you're confused,
holler at Ashley. I'll set you straight. We do get in this episode two very good callbacks to Salem's Lot. Like we talked about, we don't to not get the face in the window, but we literally get the face in the window.
Yes, they finally do it in this one.
And when they're in the bedroom, the sheriff and his son are talking in the bedroom, like right before he exits the room, we see that face in the window. And I think there's one other spot we see it too in this episode, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
We see it in the cave at one point in the flashback with Father Pruitt. You get it's from the side. You get like a glimpse in his match light before the actual reveal of the attack. Yeah. Him moving around the cave is a real moment, man.
That's so scary. Like the fucking match thing is always so scary to me. Like I always imagine, you know, like you light a match, you leave it on as long as you can, you drop it, and then in the dark that thing moves closer, and then you light your match, and then it's closer every time. Ooh.
Man, that works with like swinging door too. You could do one of those swinging doors, and so when it swings back, it's a little bit further and a little bit closer.
Scare me. I love to be scared.
Okay, I just want to acknowledge and say it out loud here again for anybody that might have missed it, because I had not really put this together, and it was going to be one of my questions in this episode. Why did Father Pruitt take so long to have any negative effects of what had happened to him? And you answered it. For whatever reason, the initial attack in that cave did not kill him. He didn't die until here he is on the floor there in his own parsonage.
Yeah. So,
dying on the floor in front of.
We'll start to see him experiencing like actual vampire shit in this next coming episode.
I had not made that connection previously, and one of my questions was why, because we see eventually some other people endure this, and it's a different set of circumstances.
It's a very different set of circumstances.
That's the answer. That's the answer, is Father Pruitt had not died until this moment. Okay, there's one more thing that I want to talk about here, the song that closes our episode. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Lovely hymn. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? And then the individual verses. Were you there when they nailed him to the cross? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Interesting song. Here's what you might have missed about it. It's believed to have been written by enslaved African Americans, sometimes in the 1800s. It was first written down, it was first printed in 1899, but it was composed by enslaved peoples in the Americas in the early 1800s.
Wow.
Yeah. Listen, we've talked a lot about some of the negatives of Christianity, and I don't want to bang on too much, but I will say one of the primary problems with American Christianity goes back to the time of enslavement and the fact that both white people and African Americans some of the white people were deluded and some of them deluded themselves, but the African Americans were specifically purposefully deluded into the idea of Christianity as a forward-facing, only about the afterlife religion. Suffering in life is suffering and nothing but suffering, but it's all for an eternal reward. We'll all be equal in heaven. You'll all be free peoples in heaven, so there's no need to worry about your enslavement today. And there were specific verses in the Old Testament that were used to reinforce that idea. Some even quotes from Paul in the New Testament that were used to reinforce the idea of slavery, chattel slavery as we had in the Americas, as a good idea, as a biblical idea. That is a false doctrine. Specifically, I want to call out, if you're interested in this,
grow up.
Go read up on the Skinner Bible, Skinner. It's a specific translation of the Bible that was used around this time in American culture, and that was specifically written, and there were notes in the margin that were made to draw attention to this idea of Christianity as a forward-thinking. That's where the whole concept of the rapture comes from, honestly. The whole concept of the rapture and 7 years of tribulation and the end times where Christians all go away, all of that comes from this period where a handful of Christians are trying to decide how they can argue that chattel slavery is good and biblical and kind and just, and God would approve it. So,
Joel, how did you just make religion worse to me? Ew.
I know. I gave it a preface if none of this is good, folks, but that's what this song comes out of.
Ugh.
That's what this song comes out of. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Bev Keane was there. She saw him on the floor, folks. She saw him rise again.
Bev.
She's going to be preaching the good news next week.
Yeah.
Because nobody's choked her with a bag of dicks yet. I don't know what to tell you. We got to get to business on that.
There, let me tell you, Bev Keane, if I lived in this fucking town, Bev Keane would be my arch nemesis. Bev Keane and I would have the worst relationship, and we would make it awkward. I would make it awkward for everyone around, as awkward as humanly possible. I would make everyone...
Joe Colley reacts to Lisa, Bev Keane would react to Ashley. That's what she's saying here. She would recoil when Ashley entered a room.
I can't with people like this. It just fucking makes me so angry because it is such a manipulation of other people's faith as well. And I think that is unconscionable. As someone who is not religious, I think one of the worst things you can do to someone is to fuck with their sense of faith and their sense that, and to do that, to manipulate it and to do it on purpose. It's really the only reason why I'm not a cult leader, because I can be very persuasive, but I couldn't fuck with people like that because you're messing with their core belief system, the things that as much as I don't want religion pushed on me. I don't want your fucking, don't wave your dick at me. I didn't ask for it, but I really know that religion brings so many people so much comfort and so much beauty in their lives. I get how the good side of it is too. So to manipulate it and to fuck with it and to fuck with people in that way is so abhorrent to me. It's just really gross and offensive.
Yes. Okay, there's a really interesting concept. There are lots of interesting concepts in this faith, but there's one in particular that I want to draw attention to. In Mormonism, in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints,
my husband's
there's this
a recovering
concept.
Mormon.
Is Brat really former Mormon? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, so talk to him about this. There's a concept of the sons of perdition. Okay, and the sons of perdition effectively mean someone who has actually been given a vision from God. Basically, it's very higher ups in the church.
Okay.
who then turn against the faith. Those are referred to as the sons of perdition. You have to have been shown Jesus. You have to know that it's real and then turn against it. And if you do that, you're a son of perdition. And those are, in the Mormon faith, the only people who actually go to anything like a hell. Everybody else basically lives in an
you used to get your own planet.
World.
Yeah,
if you're good, if you're really good, you get to be God. But normal people, you and me heathens, we won't go to hell, Ashley. We'll just go to the non-heaven. We'll go to like Eden, basically, right?
Yeah.
And we'll be punished because you and I will want caffeine and nicotine and all the stimulants that we've used that we don't get to have in Eden.
Is it like going to Jersey with no perks?
That's it.
We're going
to Jersey and having to stay there. Yeah. But the folks who were higher up, who knew that this is all real and who turned against it, those are the ones that go to hell. Those are the sons of perdition. That's how I feel. Ever since I heard that concept, I studied Mormonism because I dated one seriously in college. And ever since I heard that concept, I was like, there's something to that, actually. I don't believe in hell. I've never really believed in hell. Even when I was
such a silly concept.
Fundamentalist Southern Baptist, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. But there is a place for televangelists. There is a place for these people that you're describing, for the Bev Keens of the world, who use God and your faith to manipulate you and twist you and cause shame and anger and distrust, and sow dissension in people. There is a special place for those people. It might not be hell. It ain't comfortable, though.
But it's not nice. I think it's their own, it's your own, maybe it's your own realization, and that you have to live in that realization forever, that what you thought isn't real.
That might be, you're right. That might be its own sort of, just like we're dealing with the caffeine come down, Bev's going to be dealing with the come down of, I wasn't right, actually. I was wrong about all of this.
I'll see you at sunrise, Bev Keen.
What a bitch.
All right. What a bitch.
This conversation has gone all over the place. We are currently shorter than the last conversation, so I'm going to call that a win.
What did I say I need to do? What did I say don't let me forget about?
Oh, you said... good. You said, it was a video from
Mike Flan-Again.
Mike Flan-Again.
Yes. Okay.
He's in a cameo.
Real quick, he does a cameo. He is the priest that finds Father Pruitt when he's wandering off.
Father Pruitt, Monsignor Pruitt, where are you going?
Where are you going? So
that makes total sense.
Okay, so you need to look up the video. We need to link it because it's the funniest fucking thing. I think he did it as an Instagram reel or a TikTok or something. But he's like,
if you can find it, send it to me. I'll look for it.
I will. I totally will. So he was like, so they were like, hey, did you? He's like, I was asked if I had a cameo in this, but he's like, and I do have a role in this, but it's not a cameo. And then he's like created this insanely rich and hilarious backstory about this priest.
Nice.
It's so fucking funny. Like, I don't know how you could watch that and think this guy takes himself too seriously. Like, it's just one of those things that's like, oh, this is why we all really love Mike Flan-Again. So I highly recommend looking it up. It's so funny, but I'll try to find it and send it so we can link it because it's fucking hilarious. I just watched it like 2 days ago.
I wonder if Mike Flanagan's priest is one of the ones that Pruitt killed on his way back. Yeah.
Maybe. He did not reveal such things yet.
Speaking of Mike Flan-Again, this came up in the group earlier this week. Like, what's next for Flan-Again? We've talked previously about he's got his Dark Tower series coming at Amazon, but that's a little bit further off. There is an Exorcist project that he's been working on, the film, and that's coming in 2025. But also, Ashley, out right now in a very limited, it's like at a film festival or something, and it just got purchased by Neon, The Life of Chuck, which is a Stephen King thing. It's more Stephen King in the vein of like Stand By Me and Shawshank Redemption and things like that.
11/22/63, yeah. It's
not horror.
It's such a great story. And that cast is stacked within an inch of its life.
So many, yeah. I couldn't believe that it didn't have, like, it just got bought this week by Neon, and I don't know who the hell Neon is.
I don't either.
I couldn't believe that they didn't have a deal for that already in place with that cast. I'm like, how did he afford all these people without somebody else's money?
I mean, that guy knows how to make shit happen, and yeah, it's a very good cast. A lot of some of the performers in this. Mark Hamill's in it. Mark Hamill's in House of Usher.
Yes.
It's like one of the best performances I've ever seen from Mark Hamill. Like, Mike Flan-Again gets such incredible work out of people. It's wild. I love him.
So we'll be covering all of those projects in the future. It's crazy to think about, but I mean, we have talked ourselves into doing a podcast about the Dark Tower now, Ashley. So that's what we've signed up for.
It's my biggest failure as a Stephen. I mean, I love Stephen King so hard, and it's my biggest failure as a Stephen King fan that I've never been able to get into that series.
It's so intimidating to even think about biting it off, though, because even if you just read the main series, there's like 9 of those. But if you want to get into it, you really are supposed to go and read all of these short stories that connect, and then all the like It is part of that universe too, and so is The Stand, and so is Salem's Lot.
Dragon,
and you're like these are long books, Stephen. These are 40-hour books in many cases. Like, what else are we supposed to? Anyway, that's all coming in the future.
Joel, we've got time on our hands, and
time is on my side. That's on side of the show. But you're right, it is on our side. We'll be back in a week with our episode about book 4, because I got news for you. It doesn't stop with knowledge and wisdom, unfortunately. There are lamentations to come.
Where you need to get. But no, here come the lamentations. This next episode's pretty intense. So
it's pretty intense.
There's some big trigger warnings for it too. So just take care of yourself. And if you watch it and it's tough for you, it's okay. We're here for you, and
absolutely.
Go to your safe place and have a drink, smoke a bowl, whatever you need.
Whatever gets you through the night.
Whatever gets you through the night. I
already said. Y'all join us, though, again next week as we talk about book 4. And until then, we have been your hosts. I'm Joel.
I'm Ashley.
And we are the Articulate Coven. Thank you for watching Flan-Again, a Mike Flan-Again rewatch from the Articulate Coven. If you want our videos and audio early and ad-free, visit articulatecoven.com/join and join the coven.